Today on After Hours with Jimmy Thistle, we have the incredible Chris, also known as on Instagram Sober Bo. Chris is an incredible character, funny guy, and just an amazing story. I listened to the similarities, and I hope you do as well. He started off in life with a kind of really good job, and then kind of as young people do, kind of threw it all in to head off to Ibiza, and that didn't work out massively well for him. So it's kind of it's a story that didn't start off too badly, but then it kind of descended. Chris is doing amazingly now. He helps other people, and yeah, just a fantastic story of kind of sadness and brokenness, but turning into hope and just kind of happiness at the end. So yeah, put your earbuds in, sit back, and enjoy. I am going to start saying that because I think these stories, they are of hope from the despair. So you can enjoy them. So please do. Next up is Chris. Chris, Sober Bo. Well, is it Sober Bo or Sober Bow?
Sober Bo.
Sober Bow, yeah, I knew it was, but I just that little flash of me there thought, what if it's Sober Bow? I don't know the bow of the ship. Welcome to After Hours, mate, with Jimmy Thistle. How are you today?
I'm okay. I'm okay. It's been a strange time, as you know, but
Yeah, yeah. So we'll get into that. But you've had a good day today, have you?
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I've eased back into. I've been working um since 5 o'clock this morning, so
Right, right. Oh, wow, okay. I mean, I got up at 6, but you've beat me on that. You're probably up at 4 then if you were working from 5. Um,
I'm always up at 4.
what do you do, Chris?
I'm a stonemason. I make gravestones for a living.
Right. Okay. So my
Yeah,
papa, my grandfather on my mother's side was a stonemason. Weirdly enough, his surname was Masson. So that's my mum's maiden name.
nice.
It's with the double S. So he was a stonemason before he was a police officer as well and other things. But he started off as a stonemason up in Bonnie, Scotland. So yeah. Um,
Yeah,
so Chris,
it's a
we
good
just
place.
want to, I mean, as I say, this is kind of your platform. It's your kind of chance to tell us about your kind of your struggles, as it were. So just give us a bit of background about you, like, where you grew up and how was your childhood, and then like when you had your first drink, really.
Yeah. Well, I can pinpoint when I had my first drink because it's all in the diaries I've
Oh,
got.
right, right. You've got your journals, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I grew up in Stoke-on-Trent, which is in the north of England,
Hmm.
near to Manchester, um, in between Manchester and Birmingham. So it's
Yeah.
nice and quiet. It's not a big city like that. Um, and yeah, growing up was fine. Home life was nice. Both parents there and a sister, and I was just growing up doing the normal things, playing football.
Hmm. And
Girls weren't around at the moment.
how old are you, Chris, if you don't mind me asking? So what era was this you were growing up?
So I'm 47 now.
Right, right. So we're
So
talking like 90s pretty much for your teenage
yeah.
years and that kind of thing, yeah.
So I started keeping a diary, if you see this on here, in 1992. So
Wow.
I, I was 14, um, and they're not small diaries. It's like full pages every day, and so I kept them like that in that state, in that sort of size for from 1992 to 1997, and
Yeah. Wow, the pinnacle years. I'm actually sorry, Chris, I'm quite in awe of that because it's like I've tried to keep diaries over the years, and it always just falls flat on its face. Do you know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
really rubbish at journaling. I did write a little bit at school. I did some poetry, and do you know what I mean? I
Mm.
wrote songs. It was all absolute probably garbage, and I left it in my school bag on the last day of school, and I never got it again. So there might have been some gems in there, but it's all gone to
Oh yeah.
darkness of
So
time.
I was reunited with my diaries because they were at an old house, and I got them back
Uh-huh.
just a couple of months ago. So reading
Wow.
through them now, knowing what I know now, and knowing, I wanted to pinpoint really where things started to go wrong. Really.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess in the on the note paper there, it's is it in black and white? You tell the story, Chris. I mean, crack on. This
Yeah.
is intrigued.
Well, so we'll go to. So these are just little notes from the. So I'll just show you there, just for you, so you can see it's all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so this is January the 1st, 1992.
Crikey.
Now, bear in mind, I'm 14,
Yeah.
and, and it says I've woke up at 12 o'clock in the afternoon because I had a hangover. So that's the first entry there.
That's the first entry.
So,
And you were what,
and when I saw that,
14 at this point,
I
yeah.
was 14, and when I saw that, when I was reading through them, I was shocked because we all know we started drinking around 14, 15, but
Hmm.
we all say, we say that and we don't really think about it. But then when you see it written down as a 14-year-old child to
Yeah.
say I was hungover, I was shocked, to be fair.
Yeah.
Uh, but that wasn't like an everyday occurrence. It was
Was there
just,
anything else about the evening before, or was it just I've woke up at 12 o'clock and I'm hungover at 14? I shouldn't be laughing, but it is.
no, no, no. It just I went to a New Year's Eve party at my auntie's, so that would have meant the whole family would have been there and we'd have all been drinking. And then, they thought nothing of it giving a 14-year-old drink. And I was with other 14-year-olds and younger and older people,
Yeah.
so we'd all been drinking whatever we could, and
Well,
every,
it was the early 90s, late 80s. It's a kind of it was a
yeah,
different era, wasn't it? It was just like the little ones have a little bit of a tipple, and all that kind of stuff went on. So yeah.
yeah. So that was then, and then each day I'm doing kids things. On each day I'm playing football in the park. I'm climbing trees. I'm mentioning I'm in love with every girl who I come into contact with.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Going in when the lights
little
come
drama
on,
at
or
school.
getting home for dinner and then back out until the street lights come on and then bam, that's it. Yeah.
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 And then there's every so often there'll be, we raided someone's drinks cabinet and drank whiskey and things like that. And so I've got a 9-year-old daughter, and when I think, if in 5 years' time, if she was to drink whiskey,
Hmm.
there's no messing with whiskey, is there? It's not like drinking like a little can of hooch or something, or a little shandy or something. That's strong stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
it was strong enough for me when I was 40. It was too strong for me then. So let alone what it must have been doing then
Yeah.
when I was
I mean,
14.
it's pure ethanol. They can say, oh, it's aged and it's in oak casks and this and that, and it's all rubbish.
This
It's
was
pure.
bottled whiskey.
Yeah, this is a good stuff. This is it. It's like it's absolute poison, pure ethanol,
Yeah,
and you can
but
tart it all you
it
like.
wasn't
But
nice.
no.
And what we used to do, we used to buy cigarettes, like menthol flavored cigarettes, so that we'd have a drag of the cigarette and drink the whiskey, so we couldn't taste the whiskey,
Yeah,
because it was that vile.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so that was carrying on for a year maybe, and it wasn't a problem, was it? It wasn't a problem with anyone back then, but
No, no. I mean, my friend and I, we used to, and we started off on the hooch and the diamond white and all that, and then my friend and I quite quickly progressed to, we'd get a half bottle of vodka Smirnoff each, and we'd get a big
mm,
bottle of glass bottle of Iron Brew. We'd pour out half of that, and then pour in the half bottle of vodka, and give it a wee shake,
yeah,
and then that was us for the night. That was our drink for the Friday, Saturday night, and we were like 15, 16, and that's
yeah.
that's the hard stuff. But it was like
But
because
at the time, you feel bad, do you? You don't
yeah,
feel like you're doing any wrong.
it was
Yeah,
just
well, you
what
saw
everyone
that,
was
but it's not
doing.
really bad.
Yeah, it's what everyone was
Yeah,
doing, wasn't it? And it was like, and I think we saw people carrying around like cans and cans and cans, or a couple of bottles of Down or something. We thought we just want to carry one bottle about. So what we get, we'll just get vodka and then mix it, and that's us. So we just got one bottle to carry about, and we knew that this one bottle would do the business, and that was it. And it's,
yeah,
as you say, you've got a 9-year-old. I'm a stepdad to 14, 12, and an 8-year-old, and it's like I couldn't even imagine them coming in on a night out, or not even a night out, just being out in the park till like 10, 11 o'clock and coming in absolutely steaming. But we somehow managed it. I mean, I used to get caught quite a lot and my parents would go ballistic and, oh, I'm sorry and all that. But I don't think they really knew what to do with it.
no, no. You'd
Yeah.
probably get like grounded for a bit, and but then you'd go out and do it again in the next month or the next week or something, and it'd be
Yeah. Because I don't know about you, but with me, I was, no, I don't want to use the word hooked because I wasn't dependent or anything like that, but I was in. I was in full steam. I enjoyed it. I loved the buzz. I
yeah,
loved going out with my mates, and it was just this freedom that it kind of gave me,
yeah.
as I thought, being really funny, really charismatic. And that was it. Do you know what I mean? It was like that was my hobby at that point, you know? It's sad.
You felt cool, didn't you? You
It's what?
felt cool smoking and drinking, and
Smoking, drinking, it was rock and roll, and it's like,
yeah,
it's just madness to think of how young we were doing that, and it's
yeah.
you
So
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 how did
then
it progress with you then?
yeah, so 14, 15, 16, it was all pretty, just experimenting, wasn't it? But then I started experimenting with cannabis as well as alcohol. So mixing the two together, you're on a different level, and aren't you? You're just
Oh yeah,
completely zoned
yeah,
out.
yeah, absolutely.
And so if we skip to 1997, so the diaries have taken a turn.
Yeah.
So I'm
So you're what,
19 now.
19, I think, at this time?
Yeah.
I
And
have to
then
admit
so
that that diary is looking a little bit more grown up and professional from the previous one you showed me. The
yeah.
cover of it and all that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, my mum had got me that one. This one
Yeah.
I think I was buying.
Yeah.
So it just said this is a Thursday in February, and I brought some weed. We sat in a garage skinning up. So it's gone from just experimenting a bit there to like this is just a Thursday afternoon. We've gone and scored some weed, and we've
Yeah.
sat there just me and some lads, and then
And what were
I've
you
got in the car and
doing? What were you doing, like job wise, or were you at college at this point? Because obviously school's
well, I
finished
was I
at
was working
19.
I was working at the Michelin then. I'd got a job working at the Michelin, working shifts. So
Right.
I had lots of money really for a 19-year-old, and all I was doing was buying enough weed and drink for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, you're feeling flush, so why not? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But then, so each day is the same. I meet up with my friends, we go and score, we get stoned. I say how nice we all feel and we're all wrecked. Words I'm using like wrecked, smashed, fucked, you know.
Covered. Yeah.
Yeah, and then so the last entry, this is what made me quite sad. So I don't write anymore. I only get to February. You can see how much I'm giving up on
Yeah.
things.
You put 2 stone to it.
So yeah, this is a Friday. I've got up at 1:30 p.m. Um, gone to the pub. I've had a pint of Stella, which was cool. I've put, um, and then started smoking weed. We all felt chilled. Um, we all felt nice, and then that's it. And it's just like I know what that feeling is. It's
Yeah.
just
But it's
completely.
weird that, I mean, I'm sure, is there any other diary entries as well, or is that you're just kind of focusing on the ones about weed and
Oh yeah, God, there's loads of other stuff in
yeah,
between.
yeah, yeah. So there
Talking.
is other stuff. It's not just your kind of your habits of drinking
No,
and
but
smoking.
but I didn't keep up the diaries, and
Yeah,
because I know what after having cannabis and alcohol,
yeah,
the next step from that I was taking. We were experimenting with whiz,
yeah,
and then the whiz turned to ecstasy, and then ecstasy and some cocaine, things like that. So everything got more, and trips, acid, and hallucinogenics. So
yeah.
I'd stopped the diaries then, and Thank God I wasn't writing when I was on LSD.
I mean, I'm trying to write my kind of memoirs at this point, and I'm writing a chapter at the moment about I think it was 97 as well, and we just graduated school and we went out. Basically, we would just go camping as often
Yeah.
and as much as the weather would provide. Granted, we're up in Scotland. We wouldn't go far, just a little place, like a little glade up like a couple of miles outside our village. So we'd go park up there. And yeah, we just take lots of acid. And I'm trying to kind of put that experience into words. And to me, like the thing is, the drugs were never something that really took hold of me. That was like an experience
No.
that I had, and it was the clubbing was the E, and then I gave up smoking weed when I got paranoid with it.
Mm,
Cocaine laterally when I could afford it would obviously enable me to drink more, so I did use that.
yeah.
But the things like the acid and all that, and I mean, I know they're using certain types of mushrooms and things like that for kind of medicinal
Mhm.
purposes now. So I'm not really kind of focused on that for me because for me it was just the alcohol, and the alcohol was I wouldn't have done any of that stuff had it not been for the alcohol. The alcohol always made
Yeah.
it more attractive to try these things and experiment with them. I
Yeah.
don't know if it was like that
And
with
you always come back to the alcohol. The alcohol's always there. Like the
yeah.
weed went, the ecstasy went, everything stopped, but the alcohol stayed.
The
And that,
alcohol
and,
stayed
and
because it's there. It's everywhere. You know, you don't have to.
yeah.
I mean, I would sometimes use alcohol on like a come down or whatever. We'd go to the pub on a Sunday and
Mhm.
just nurse our kind of weird feelings and all that. And
Oh yeah, we don't
but
go
it's
there,
always there,
but
isn't it? You know.
yeah.
So how did
But
your 20s then kind of progress and work wise and
while I was, working that job, which was a good job, good money, my mum and dad were happy, but I was still getting wrecked it was turning into every night.
yeah.
Not just on my own, with other people.
Yeah.
But then we went on holiday to Ibiza, and when we went there for 2 weeks, it was just mind blowing. When we went there, it was like nothing we'd ever seen before. That was 1999, and then everything changed. I was like, right, I'm going to quit my job and
Oh,
go and live in Ibiza.
yeah.
So I had to break the news to my parents, which didn't go down well. But when I got there, it was just a free for all. It was just
Yeah.
there was no work as such. It was just all party the whole time. And
So had you kind of you hadn't got a job set up to go out there to, you were going to go and
well, you could go. It's a lot harder to go there now. You need all these visas, and I don't think they let
yeah.
a lot of English there. But it was just you'd go for a job interview, giving out flyers, things like that, and or working in a bar, or
Yeah.
rep.
And it was back then, so well, I mean, I suppose it's still pretty easy, not apart from the visas and that, to go and get a job, in anywhere in kind of these European islands and cities and that to just go and rock up. But it's
Well,
a big
I couldn't.
step, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I couldn't. I was 23.
Hmm.
Um, I'd quit a good job to go there, and it was just well, there was nothing other than drink and drugs and music, and that's where. So I saw my first ever alcoholic in Ibiza.
Yeah.
Um, it was a guy who came to a local bar where we used to all sit, and he was really nice, and we used to chat and everything. And then one of the women who works in the bar said, "Just be careful of him because he changes a bit." And I was like, "Oh, what do you mean changes?" And he was all excited, saying, "No, my family are coming over tonight. We're going to go out for a meal and do that." And the next morning, I was coming home from a club,
Hmm.
and like they were cleaning the streets. The West End is like the main street where all the bars are, and the bin men were out, and they were jet washing the street, get rid of all the crap and the beer and probably blood.
Yeah.
And I saw this state, and he was fast asleep,
Oh,
like in the street. So I was like, "Hey, try and wake him up." And when I woke him up, he was just a different, like what this woman had said. He was a different person. He was
yeah.
just aggressive. He was trying to smash windows. He was absolutely smashed, and he'd fallen out with his family. And And then the next day after that, I saw him and he was like, "Oh God, I'm sorry yesterday." And I'm like, "What the fuck?" And it was, it took me a while to realise that that was an alcoholic because I'd
Yeah.
never seen one. I'd seen people, I'd seen people's parents maybe, but to see one that bad, it was like,
It's like
okay,
night and day, isn't it? With some people, it can just that kind
yeah,
of aggression, that complete not aware of what they're kind of doing, and just yeah, to just flip like that, to become a completely different person. I mean, I was quite lucky. I wasn't obviously the person I am now when I was drinking and when I was really pissed, but I was never someone that would be overly aggressive or break things or anything like that. I was just more kind of just intent on ruining my own life, to be fair. Like, I would get argumentative, but I was never really violent or anything like that.
yeah. I was. So within, so I lived in Ibiza for 2 years, different times.
Mhm.
Like came home, got a bit of a job, then went back. And then at the end of the second year of living there, where I was fully drinking every day, drinking hard spirits every day.
Yeah.
I was, what did I, so there's lots of bars in this main street and lots of bouncers on the bars stopping, all the trouble happening. And I
Yeah.
just walked up to this guy on this bar who owned the bar, and for some reason I just swung for this guy. I didn't have any beef with him, nothing, but I just swung for him, and a lot of bouncers came out of nowhere and pinned me to the floor. They CS'd me, the
Yeah.
CS gas.
Oh, Jesus.
Um, yeah, and then I got bundled off and taken home by my friends who weren't happy with me. And then the next day, they said, "You better go and apologise to the guy who owns the bar," or. So I walked into this bar, it was a Welsh bar, and he
Mhm.
was sat there with all his friends in a circle. And I
Mhm.
walked up and said, "Look, I'm sorry about yesterday. I was drunk." And he didn't say anything, but he came and found me later on and said, "Thanks for apologising. It took some balls, that did."
Mhm.
He says, "Well, if I was you, I'd go home now. I'd get on a flight and go back to England because you're a mess out here."
How
So in
long
that in
how
that
long
two
had you been?
years, I'd been out there from the May. This was like the September. So
So what, 5 months is that? Yeah.
yeah.
4
So I'd had all my hair shaved off because I fell asleep and someone had shaved my hair and my
oh,
eyebrows.
Jesus.
Because that's what we used to do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
of course. That was it. If you fell asleep, it was like, right, don't ever fall asleep again
yeah,
because you're going to get your head shaved. Yeah.
I chipped the front of my tooth. I'd lost loads of weight because I was just taking drugs and drinking.
Yeah.
I turned into this guy who I'd seen the first year, this alcoholic, and
Yeah.
without knowing, I'd become him. So I came home and then got a job pretty much straight away as a stonemason, what I do now. But that was like 23 years ago now,
Hmm.
24. Calmed down a bit, but the drink was still there. It was
Yeah.
still getting to me. It
Yeah.
wasn't every day though. I wasn't drinking every day, and I was having different relationships with girls, and uh, um, but there'd be flashpoints where we'd have arguments, and they'd be drinking as well, but it'd just be drunken arguments like you do when you're in your 20, 25, 26. But then,
And I think with me, like, I don't know about you, but I used to always seek out the people that were drinkers. I think we always gravitate towards that. Like, relationships, especially early on, were always people that I could go and have a drink with and all of that. If I
yeah,
met someone that didn't really drink, I wouldn't pursue that. Do you know what I mean? It wouldn't have
yeah,
been a thought in my mind because
you
I'd be
wouldn't
like,
move
well,
in the same circle.
yeah. And obviously mates as
But
well. You'd always have to have your mates. And I'd always find people that I'd be working with that would be up for a drink. I'd always be like, oh, who's coming out tonight? And I'd find the people that then I could kind of mix with. And it was just, that's just how you did it, I
yeah,
guess. Yeah.
yeah, well, yeah. But the the drugs sort of they weren't the main thing. You'd have drugs on a night out if they were there, or people would go clubbing, and but
Yeah.
I wouldn't want them every day. Whereas drink, you could go to, like you say, he was there, and but I could keep a job. It wasn't getting in the way of anything.
Well, you're still young, you know. I suppose you weren't probably
Yeah.
having that bad a hangover. You're probably waking up and then, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but for me, it was like I'd get to the end of the day and I'd probably had a horrendous day, but I'd been able to do the work. And then
Mm.
by the time I finished work, it'd be like, right, let's go for a pint, you know, because that was my reward.
Yeah.
And then that would sort me out for that evening, you know.
But a lot of that, I think, because I lived at home as well until I was, well, I came back home from Ibiza, lived at home for, I think I moved out in 2006. So it was when I moved out and I moved in with my daughter's mum now. We've since split up, but I moved in with her, and that's when I think me drinking sort of escalated because I felt like, oh, this is it now. I'm an adult. I've got my own house. I can do what I want. I can buy a bottle of wine. I can smoke fags in the kitchen and things. And
Yeah. Yeah.
but you don't realize, do you? You don't realize when you're doing it. It's not just a nice glass of wine with your meal. It's becoming every day, and then it's
Yeah.
our house was always the party house, so
It was what?
we'd have
Sorry,
lots of people.
up in the party zone, did you say?
Yeah, we'd have like our house was the party house.
Yeah.
So each weekend, all the friends would come around, and then it was, we'd all have a good time. But then when the friends would leave, I'd still carry on drinking, and my partner would at the same time. But the arguments were getting worse, and my sort of, it's a split personality really when you're drinking and you're so, because you're not really when you're drinking every day, you're not really sober, are you? You're not.
No.
There's no.
You're not letting
You're either
yourself.
hungover.
Yeah, you need at least 2 or 3 days to get it out of your system, and then you're not that kind of belligerent or grumpy or moody. You know what I mean? So you're living basically on the buzz of the booze and that's who you become. Yeah.
I couldn't go 2 or 3 days like without. If I
And this
did
is,
do it,
and are you in your kind of late 20s at this point? Um,
late 20s, 30s now, and
yeah,
but I still didn't see it as a problem.
no,
And even the arguments, even the feeling like shit all the time, because you're not feeling like shit, are you really? It's just you feel shit because of an argument, then you make up, and then repeat in a few
and the
months.
alcohol's a depressant. I mean, I don't know about you, but if we had arguments and things like this, it was never my fault. You know, it was not
No.
my problem. It wasn't me that had caused it. It wasn't anything to do with my drinking. And I was like you. I mean, I
No.
remember thinking in my kind of mid 20s, and I was like, because I was coming home from work every day, and I had quite a good job. I was doing photography, and I'd come home and I lived above a co-op, and I had some housemates, but they all kind of were room dwellers and kept themselves to themselves. Sometimes they'd come out and we'd have a bit of a party, but I'd had better housemates before, and then they moved out, and then this last lot were in. But I would just go in my room. I'd go into the co-op and I'd get 3 bottles of wine for a tenner, and I would just take them up to,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd just sit there and I don't know, listen to music, watch films, and I would just be just drinking these 3 bottles of wine. I'd maybe have a bite to eat, but I knew that I'd be all right to go up and get to work the next day. You know, there was strong wine, but I knew
Yeah.
that 3 bottles was fine. And then if I sometimes thought, oh, push the boat out maybe on a Thursday night if I wasn't out with mates or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd have 4 bottles, I was absolutely useless the next day. So I knew that that was my limit. But
Yeah.
3 bottles of wine is it's a phenomenal amount to be drinking on a school night. You know, it's insane. But that was like you say, because then the weekends would come, and the weekends would be partying with mates, and then there'd maybe be a bit of this and a bit of that, and then Sunday night would be fun day Sunday. You know, kind of wind it down
Yeah.
weekend, and then
And then
Monday again. Yeah, I
another
mean,
one.
I never had days off, and I'd be like, "You've been drinking now for like months and months and months solidly." And I was thinking in the back of my head, I was thinking, you should probably have have some time off soon and all that. But that never kind of came to a head, unless there was a reason for me not drinking. You know, like going to visit parents or something like that.
Yeah, I never got into doing. I mean, dry January wasn't a thing in
No.
them days, but there wasn't even a thought of having it. Just a break. Really, it was just you'd think it, but then
Oh yeah, I mean,
before you
I
know
was
it, you're
if I'm thinking of a break, I would be thinking of like a night off, and that would be it. And it would only be
yeah.
through the reason that maybe because I had a car at that point, so if I was driving somewhere, then I'd have to have a night
Mm.
off, and then I'd be back on it. But
Oh, if I
I
drove
was like
anywhere,
you, I didn't know it was a problem at all. So
no.
yeah,
If, I think once I was the designated driver and I was miserable the whole night. I was just sat there with me Coke and everyone was drinking, and I was like, "Oh, can we go home yet?" And it was just
yeah, because you're just
not
like
that.
this is not you because we're not equipped to going out on nights out without our little friend with us, you know.
Yeah,
So if we're
I know.
suddenly thrown into this night out where, you're not drinking, it's like, I don't know how to deal with this. I'm so used to having alcohol by my side, making me
Yeah,
have a good time, or so it were. So it's like it was a big learning curve for me when I got sober to actually go out on nights out or whatever without drinking. Yeah.
yeah. It does take a lot of doing.
Yeah.
You don't get it right every time as well.
No,
But
not at
I'm like
all.
you. You said you listen to music. You used to
Mm,
sit there listening to music. Have a drink and listen to music. And for me, that was heaven. I'd
yeah.
just sit there all night. Um, my partner would go to bed, and I'd just stay up watching YouTube. Another can, another bottle, and it was brilliant. I'd go to bed like 4 or 5 o'clock some mornings, and just
Yeah.
well, I'd had a brilliant night, but never thinking really anything that bad. Which is,
Well,
in
because
hindsight, what we know now, it's
you're
terrible.
enjoying it, you're in the moment, you're young, and you're just thinking,
Mm.
this is the life, this is
Yeah.
pure. For me, it was pure heaven because I didn't really know anything else. I mean, I did get into a bit of running back then, and I'd go through phases of training for like little 10Ks and things like that. And
Yeah.
but most of the time that was all still whilst drinking and smoking. And so I'd get
Yeah.
myself quite fit, but I wouldn't be thinking, well, I should probably knock the booze on the head for a month while I train for this. I would still be doing it. In
Yeah.
fact, I rocked up to one, nearly missed the starting point because I was so hungover, and I think I was still pissed, and I ran this 10K. I don't know how I did it, but I mean, I
You
was like,
know when you're still pissed, don't you? You know
yeah.
when you're still pissed the next day because you can't, you just feel drunk, don't you?
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
no other
absolutely.
way.
And there's no way if I'd woke up hungover, I probably wouldn't have done the run. But because I was still pissed, I was like,
Yeah.
let's get this done. So I was only 27 at the time. And but yeah, so I didn't really think that there was anything that I needed to stop it for because I was enjoying my life. And around
Mm.
me, I gravitated to all these groups of friends that were big drinkers, big, this and that. And it was it was just a good time. This is when I was living in Cambridge, and it was just a total party atmosphere that we all had. We'd always
Mm.
find parties and reasons to go to each other's houses and doing this and doing that. And it was just a good time. So there was no, I mean, thinking back, there was people that I've said to since, and they've said, "Oh yeah, we knew you had a bit of an issue back then, but we just thought you
Mm.
knew and that you were just kind of this was your lifestyle." And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Now, had they said
Yeah.
to me at the time, we think you're drinking too much, maybe you should, you know, knock that in the head or get some help or something, I'd have probably just told them to piss off and then go and find some other people that I could go and drink with. So the fact that they never told me, it didn't change anything. It was just, yeah. But it's interesting that they've since said, oh yeah, we knew. I was like, oh right.
Oh no, no one's ever said that to me. Funnily enough,
Yeah.
a lot of people said, you weren't that bad. I'm like, but they don't see you at 3 o'clock in the morning when you're hungover. When you're waking up and you're sweating and you're regretting, and they're not in your head, are they?
No, not at all. Not at all.
So it went on like that for quite a while, not thinking anything was bad. But then in the back of your head, you start thinking, right, if I have a child, then I'll cut down. I had a child, I didn't cut down. I was drunk when she was born because my partner went in she was induced, and the nurse said, if you go home now and just relax because you've got a long day tomorrow because she'll
Mhm.
have the baby tomorrow. So I went home. I thought, brilliant. So I stuck a film on, started drinking some cans, and I think I drank 5 cans, and I got a call saying the baby's coming now. So I drove to the hospital. I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not proud of that.
No, but of course you did.
And then she went off, and I got on the bed and passed out on the bed where she'd been lying. So when they came back in, they had to move me off the bed.
And you
Um,
had the baby at this point, or
no, she was in labour for God, something like 10 hours or something. So it was. I sobered up by the time the baby came. Believe me.
right? Yeah, but it's
Um,
you know what? It's good that they phoned you at that point because if it'd been another 5 hours later and you were like 20 cans in,
oh
it might have been
God, yeah.
a different story, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've never thought of that, but you're right. Yeah, it could have been a lot worse.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but no, it didn't stop me drinking, and I'd try and get her to sleep at night, but I'd have a can on the go at the same time, and then you think you've been a good parent. Well, I was always a good parent, but I had to have, like you say, my little helper with me all the time just to get through.
I'm your partner.
Oh,
I'm assuming that she stopped drinking for the 9 months. You didn't, but did
she
she
stopped
start
drinking for
drinking
9 months.
again?
Yeah, she was looking forward to a drink after the 9 months, but then
Yeah,
she breastfed for a bit, so she didn't. She was really good.
yeah,
But then a, a lot of women can do that, can't they? Well, nearly all of them. They do 9 months, then the reward is that they can drink
yeah,
after, which is fair enough.
yeah.
But if you'd have said to them, just stop drinking for yourself for 9 months, how many people would do that? It's
It,
strange, isn't it, when you're thinking of a child,
yeah,
you do it.
yeah. I mean, I've had
Um,
obviously you know Kate and the other Kate Taylor
yeah,
and Olivia as well. They all three of them have told me and Joe, all the ones that have been on the podcast, they all stopped for 9 months. It's
yeah,
absolutely baffling. And the reason they've been told, right, this is harmful for your baby, so don't do it. But then it's
yeah,
like, well, if they just say, well, it's actually harmful for you as well, but there's never that message, is it? It's harmful for babies, but it's not harmful for
yeah.
humans. Actually, it really is. So, but it's
And
weird.
don't even have to go into detail, do they, about why it's harmful for a baby? All we can say is it's harmful for a baby, and that's enough for anyone. Like,
That's
right,
enough.
I'm
Yeah.
stopping.
I'm not going to harm that unborn child, but I'll harm myself as soon as that
Yeah.
child's with me, yeah, and I've breastfed it. It's pure insanity. Yeah.
So yeah, so a few years after my daughter Daisy was born, like, the relationship between me and a partner started to break down a bit. We were just mainly becoming friends again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to be fair, there wasn't just there was four of us really. There was me, my partner, Daisy, and then the drink for me because that was taking prevalence over everything.
Well, it becomes your best friend, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Goes everywhere with
So
you.
I'd start to like sneak drinks. Like I was drinking every night. People knew that, but they didn't know I was sneaking drinks, before the party or even before dinner at night.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'd say I'm going to take the dog out for a walk, and I'd walk to the off license, buy 4 cans, put the cans in my pocket, drink the cans on the walk,
Mm-hmm.
chuck the cans in some field, and then go back home and then say, "Oh, shall we have another bottle of wine?" Do you know what I mean? So I was
Absolutely.
just on a totally different level.
Yeah, yeah. But you
Um,
needed, I guess you needed it at that point because it wasn't like you're just thinking, oh, I'll go for the walk with the dog and do you know what? It'd be nice on a nice evening in November when I'm walking the dog. I should have a can. You're not drinking it
yeah,
because you enjoy it. You're drinking it because you need it at that point. You know what I mean? That's
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you're doing it sneakily. There's nothing good about it, but your body just must need it to feel right. I was never like I didn't get the shakes or anything. So, but it was just my brain just thought that I needed it. Like I couldn't. If I'd have gone for a walk without getting the shot, it would have been on my mind all night that
Yeah.
I needed that extra bit.
You needed that extra bit. And the thing is, like the more I kind of look into it, you don't necessarily have to have the shakes. I mean, I got the shakes right at the end, but I was
Mm,
I was definitely dependent on it for probably quite a few years on a very like small level. That fact, the
yeah,
same thing with you. I would go to the Aldi to get the shopping in and get the tea on, and I would get us some bottles of wine for having that night. But I'd also have like I'd get like two or three of the little, the little like quarter bottles of wine. And
Yeah, yeah,
I would just
yeah,
be necking them on the way back up the road because I needed it. You know, I needed to kind of
yeah,
stave
to
off
get you
the small
to
amounts of
that
withdrawal.
level.
Yeah. And I don't know whether it was withdrawal or just being able to handle life or whatever, but that was the one thing that I needed. And once I'd had that, I was all right. I could handle
Yeah.
anything, you know. But yeah.
So yeah, I didn't really think I needed to quit, but something wasn't right. But I wasn't going to deal with it.
Yeah.
It was just carry on until the relationship came to a head, and then I moved out, and I was drinking more and more on my own. And then that's when the drinking sort of went darker
Mm.
because once it goes dark, you know yourself, Jimmy. Once you're drinking and you're in a dark place, it's hard to get out of that darkness.
Yeah. It's yeah.
And with no one stopping me, only when I had my daughter. But I'd still drink when I had my daughter on them days. But when she wasn't there, and it was just all day, every day. When I wasn't working.
Yeah.
And I remember
And what was it
once,
at
and
this
this
point?
didn't stop me.
Was it cans? Was it spirits?
It was cheap cider. It was like the strongest, cheapest cider,
Yeah.
and then red wine to finish off with. So
A bit of
I'd probably
class
drink
there,
eight.
yeah.
Yeah, probably drink 8 cans of cider and then the red wine. You know,
Mm.
um, to get me to where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And I
And would
remember
that
one
be
morning.
would that where you wanted to be? Would it be blackout? Would you want to get to
Some nights, yeah, some nights.
yeah.
It, it'd just be that certain level of yes, this music sounds that's as good as it did last night. You knew the level you
You
wanted
knew
to
that,
be at,
yeah,
didn't you?
yeah, yeah.
You knew the certain song you'd want to put on and the certain anger or not anger or just feeling of melancholy. Sometimes I'd feel just
Yeah.
something that
Passion,
wasn't.
whatever, it has all the emotions, doesn't it? And it's like, you're just in there on your own place with the music up loud or whatever, and you're just like, this is it. And you think this is the place I want to be, and it's really not, is
Yeah,
it? Yeah.
no, and there was a lot of rock bottoms or bad things that happened, but I remember one more. This wasn't really rock bottom. I was just lying in bed on my own, and I remember thinking it was about 11 o'clock, and I was thinking I don't want to get out of bed because if I get out of bed,
Mhm.
I'm going to start drinking. And I felt that hungover. I didn't want to drink, but I knew as soon as my feet touched the floor, I'd
Yeah.
drink. And I thought, little thing like that. It didn't stick in my mind at the time, but it was a moment. And then when I look back, I think, well, something's happening there. Something was telling me somewhere that this isn't right.
Hmm.
What's happening? Um, and then I ended up going to the doctors because I was ill with my stomach. I got sent home from work for being sick, and he asked me how much I was drinking, and I told him the truth. And then that's what led me to basically from nowhere, from out of the blue, just thinking I'll have a go at stopping them, just so see if these tablets work.
And so, what were the tablets again? Sorry, they were.
It was just some indigestion, that
Oh,
strong
right.
indigestion tablets, because I couldn't keep any food down, I couldn't do anything like that. But I was
Yeah.
still trying to force drink down,
Yeah.
thinking, oh, I can drink then, but I couldn't keep anything down. And the doctor said it could be linked to your drinking.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, good on you for
but
being honest about the boozing because,
it was
it's,
the first time I'd ever done it.
yeah, because it's not often that they do. It's not often that they do ask like how much are you drinking. It's quite. It's normally they just do it to kind of put it on their bit of paper and say this person has X amount of units. But actually, if they're asking you like how much are you drinking, and if you're obviously honest and saying like 10, 15 cans and a bottle of red wine, it's like yeah, okay, there's
As soon
something
as I told him,
an issue there.
as soon as I told him the amount, he said, "Pull your top down, then," because and he said, "Come and sit over here." And so I did 2 weeks of not drinking because
Mhm.
I wanted these tablets to work. I couldn't be being sent home from work for being ill, so my job was my priority.
Mhm.
But at the end of these 2 weeks, I had a weekend trip to Ibiza booked.
Oh,
So I did the 2 weeks, no drink, which I was surprised how well I'd done. But this was at the end, this little reward of a trip away, and I went on the trip and was the most smashed person probably in Ibiza, and
You've had 2 weeks off
and
as well, so you're like, right, I deserve this. Yeah.
And I was just drinking neat vodka. I was drinking shots in the morning. I just went for it, and then I came home on a night flight, and I drank this can on the flight coming home. And I remember thinking, "That's it now. I'm done."
Mm-hmm.
But what I'd done, so I joined Instagram, and all I did was hashtag sober, like find out sober. Just go down any rabbit hole.
Yeah. Find the community pretty much. Yeah.
And I didn't realize all of that existed, and then found out a podcast, started listening to that, and then the more I did it, it was like I was brainwashing myself. So I put a podcast on as I went to sleep, and then wake up, finish off the podcast in case I missed anything, and then all of a sudden I was just on this mission to. I pretty much knew from then that I wouldn't drink again, which I know not everyone does, but I sort of knew I would never drink again.
So your last beer was on the plane on the way back from.
On the way back, yeah.
And when was that? How long ago was that now, Chris?
July the 3rd, 2022. So
wow. So yeah, coming up on 3 years in this summer. But yeah, 2.5 years, 2.5 years now. Yeah. Well done, man. That's amazing. And it's the doing things like that. It's rewiring your brain, isn't it? It's that CBT. It's really kind of trying to disconnect your brain from the old you and rewire it into this new way of thinking, because we get stuck in this hamster wheel of hell. And good on you for. So you didn't go to any AA or SMART or anything? No.
I joined. So with just looking on Instagram, I found like a local group, Midland Sober Society, that isn't like AA or anything. It was just a group of what a girl started because she went sober and realized she wanted sober friends. So she set a group up for like-minded people in Birmingham and things.
Yeah.
So we'd all go out, and it wasn't like your stereotypical, well, what you think when you go and you all sit around the table and say, well, I'm so long sober, this is my story. We went out and we did fun things. We went out, went to coffee shops, went to bars, we were the loudest people in these bars and the coffee shops, and
having the most fun.
Grew. Yeah. And then she asked if I wanted to become admin for the group, which I did. And it's that accountability then as well, which does help. And it did help finding a group of people who were all the same. And we were all different ages and all different, styles of music. And it was just brilliant.
But you've all got that one connection. And that's what I found, because I found a really good NA group here. And there was only like 4 or 5 of us when I started. And then it grew and grew and grew. So by that Christmas, because I got sober in the August, and by that Christmas, I think there was about 10 or 11 people in it. And we'd go out on hikes, we'd go for coffees. We went on our own alternative Christmas dinner, because most of us didn't work for companies. I mean, I was a gardener. One of the guys worked for an addiction charity. Some of them weren't working. And the ones that did work in offices, they didn't want to go out on a Christmas do because they knew it was going to be a piss up. So we just went out and had our own Christmas works do type thing. And it was great. We were always really like-minded people. Yeah.
It is. But then I think, because I was used to that environment of going out with them, and, we'd all be friends, and there was different groups, and you knew who you could talk to, and someone else had talked,
Yeah.
But then if I went out without them, with some of my old friends who were drinking, it'd be a totally different experience for me, because, well, I was the only one who wasn't drinking, and they'd say, can you just have one? I'm like, no, it's fine, and the conversation isn't the same, and it was a struggle.
Yeah, so I was going to say, like, how did that, like, did you keep in touch with all your old mates or your old drinking buddies, or was there a kind of bit of a drop off in some of them, or?
Yeah, and it was it's hard for them at the start because they've lost their friend. They've lost a part of their friend. What they think,
Yeah.
because I'd go out. I'd normally be the first one and the last one there, but it was like I'd go and I'd be a bit quiet at the start, and then I'd just leave early. But you've got to do that, at the start, because you're learning how to live again. Really, you're learning how to be in them situations, and
you've got all your emotions coming back. You've got to learn how to be who you are again, because, like for me, it was like what I worked out the other day. It was 26 years of drinking, so I didn't know how to socialize without it. And even that had that kind of, it was bleeding into my, so if you're, because I was a very social person. So if my social life is all about drinking, that then bleeds into your personal life, and that becomes who you are. So it was like finding out who I was always supposed to be it was a lot of fun, but it was fucking scary, man. It was, because it was like,
but you've got. I know some people who've tried to stop drinking, and they don't go out as much, and then when they go out, they're not very comfortable with it. But you've just got to keep at it. Not every night's going to be perfect, is it? Not every night's going to be amazing. But that's what alcohol did. It used to make the mediocre nights fucking brilliant.
it basically rose tinted every night out, didn't it? And even if people would be like, "Oh, last night was shit," and you'd be like, I enjoyed myself. I had a good time. And they were like, you don't even remember most of it. Whereas now it's like, I'll go out for a point and then, and we don't, I mean, I don't go clubbing or anything anymore. And I don't really go to bars. But like if we're going to like a house party or if there's an event on, like we'll go for a certain amount of time. And then when it starts to get a bit like, well, they're not really paying attention to what we're saying to them or this, that, and the other. You're like, right, it's time for me to get out of here, and that's fine because you've done your bit. You don't have to be there until 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and that's fine.
But I did think to myself, I'm gonna throw myself into the dance scene as much as I can because I love that scene and I love that music, and I didn't want to stop that, but I thought I've got to find a way to do it. So I just went on my own and, went to raves on my own. I went to Ibiza on my own to celebrate my year's sobriety. And just went to the clubs.
And how was that? I mean, like to me, that sounds, and I don't want to be, don't take this to be rude or anything, but it sounds like absolutely hell to me, And I mean, I used to enjoy the clubs, but to me now it's like, wow, I'm more about the quieter life now.
Well, yeah, but I just thought I just want to see if I can dance, if I can do this when I'm,
Yeah, no, good on you, man.
It could have backfired, but I went and I saw some great DJs and did everything. Yeah, I'd leave at 1 or 2, but I was driving. I could do,
Yeah.
Whereas,
and you're going to remember it, and you probably, do you know what? It took me a long while, and I was talking about this in one of the NA meetings way back at the start, and well, it was about a year in, and I think one of my shares was about music, and I was like, I could not listen to any techno or like, the house music or any of that for a long time because I tried listening to it when I was first sober and it was really triggering to me. So I just had to kind of like switch it off and, go and listen to like Pink Floyd and stuff like that. That was okay. A bit of indie music, that was fine. But when I went back to the techno music, eventually I went back to it because I was like, this is ridiculous. I love this music. I've got to listen to it. So I'd go back, put all my old classics on, and do you know what? It's so much more enjoyable now. Like I love the music and I just put it on in my car, full blast, and I get more out of it, but it's a different vibe.
oh yeah, well, I didn't think I'd enjoy music again. Honestly, I didn't think I'd enjoy any of it. I used to think, how could I dance if I'm sober? How can I enjoy? How can I stay up till the DJ finishes his set at 4 a.m. I'd forget that I used to get thrown out of clubs, so I'd never see the fucking DJ finish his set. So then it was on my birthday last year, so I was about a year and a half sober. I went to a club in London on my own and it was in the day, and I had the moment, what we all probably have when we've gone sober, when you have a moment where you just feel that happy and you think, I'm as happy as I was then
Mm-hmm.
as I would be if I was drinking and taking, you know.
Oh yeah,
It was
the pink cloud as they call it. Yeah, yeah.
it was not just like the everyday. This was like a moment where I was dancing on the steps with loads of strangers. The music was brilliant. I could feel everything. It was the venue was amazing, and I was just on the best high. And I just drank fucking water, tap water, because I wasn't buying bottled water.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that's it. Not every night's like that when I go out. Some nights I'll go out and I'm not feeling it, and I don't think, oh, well, I do think it'd be different if I was drinking, but I don't want to drink.
Mm-hmm.
I just, take one, take it on the chin, go home. You weren't feeling it that well that night. So
Yeah. Well, we all have our ups and downs, you know.
mm,
And I went to see Groove Armada in Brixton Academy. I think it was 2022. I went over to visit my mate in London, and it was one of the best nights I've ever had. There was obviously all the old crew, and you could see them. They were obviously off their heads and all this and that.
yeah,
And I was just like, get myself some water, or I think I got an alcohol-free beer, and we were just dancing. But my mate, like
yeah,
I think he was drinking alcohol, but he wasn't like taking anything or doing anything like that. But he did go to the bar to go and get another beer at one point, and I was like, fuck, I do not miss that because it'd be up at the bar.
yeah,
You'd be in the toilet, you'd be doing this, and it'd be like you'd miss half the set or the majority of the
yeah,
set. So yeah,
yeah.
it's you're just there for the music and
I'm glad.
enjoying.
I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I pushed myself because
Yeah.
it's the way I am now about music. Like, and what I've done. So I left the sober group, the Midland Society, and since then, like I've sort of got a new group of friends who are into the same music as me, but they
Hmm.
drink, and they're all from different parts of Manchester and things.
Hmm.
But what I'm saying is, I've got the confidence now to go and meet new people who drink, and they just know me that I don't drink, but we
Yeah.
go out and dance all night, and I
That's
never thought I
awesome.
could do that. I was thinking,
No. And it's funny that obviously they're not complete. Well, I don't know, but are they complete caners or are they just having a few drinks and enjoying themselves? They're not getting
no,
absolutely,
no,
are
some
they?
just have a few, some drink all night, and um, yeah, there's all different, there's all different types, and it's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
I feel their energy,
yeah,
um, and then I can dance all night, and we all get on, and then we all go our separate ways and go home. But
yeah.
when I first got sober, there's no way I could have done that. But I've challenged myself, and then each time I've gone
And I
out.
think it is good that it's so commendable that you've done that to kind of, not force yourself, but challenge yourself, as you say, to do that so that you're not feeling like you're missing out on the music and all that. I'll go to
Yeah,
I'll go to see bands and stuff here when we get decent ones coming over to the Isle of Man because it's not that often. But when we do, I do enjoy going to live music and it's fine without the booze, and I do enjoy that. Because more
yeah,
often than not, as I say, I'd be absolutely smashed. We went to see
exactly.
Jen and I went to see, I don't know if you remember Therapy. They're an Irish band
Yes, I do. Yeah,
back in the 90s. They came to Isle of Man and they were doing the 30th anniversary of Trouble Gum, which was like, holy shit, that's a long time. 30? Yeah, it would have been, yeah, it'd have been the 30th anniversary of that album. It came out in 94. Anyway, so it was like, um, I was just saying to Jen, I mean, I was going mad and dancing and all the rest of it, or headbanging, whatever. And I was just like, Christ, I would have been absolutely. I went to see them in '94 when they came out in Glasgow Barrowlands, and I was 14, and I was absolutely trolleyed, doing crowd surfing and all this, probably nearly getting into fights and all this kind of stuff. Probably had a really good night, but I was
yeah.
14 in the middle of Glasgow and just getting absolutely twatted, and it's crazy. Yeah. So would you say? Because I always ask people this, and it sounds like you'll probably give me quite a different answer. Do you still think that alcohol? What are your thoughts on it? And do you think it still has a place in society today?
Um, it has a place. It always will.
Yeah,
But now I see. Right. So I did a Facebook post. So when you're in a group, as you know, in a Facebook group, a sober group,
yeah,
you put a post on and you get lots of support and everyone like relates to it, and it's a lot of positive comments.
hmm
Now I put a post on my normal Facebook, about my diaries a couple of months back.
Mm-hmm.
And in this post, I put, about me realizing when I was 14, I was drinking poison. I used the word poison, and people don't know that word
They don't
haven't
associate
smoked
alcohol
do
with poison, do they? No.
No. And I got a bit of a backlash of comments of like, oh, it's sad that you look at your childhood like that. We had the best times growing up drinking. And I was like, well, yeah, the best times. But now I know that I didn't need the alcohol. So that's where I'm at with alcohol. Like, because there's people who give up drinking now who are 20. I'm so inspired by the younger people who give up drinking. Not the ones who don't drink, yeah, fair enough. But there's a lot of people who I'd met in the group as well who've give up in the 30s, and they're still going out and they're still having the best time ever, but not drinking. So where I am, I think I was sold this dream of alcohol doing everything, which it did, but I didn't really. So
because you're I
I
mean,
know.
I've only just met you tonight, and you seem like a lovely guy. I know you are, and we don't need booze, do we? Do you know what I mean? That's the thing.
No.
We're interesting, we're charismatic, we're whatever, we're fun. And even if you're not the most like energetic and outgoing person in the world, it doesn't matter. You can still go out and have a good time with your mates, and that's it. You don't need the alcohol to do that, but everyone seems to think that they do. And I'm completely behind you. I've got a guy who he's actually a friend here from NA, and he was 27 when he got sober, and he's just coming up on 4 years. Well, he's just had 4 years last year, and he still continued to go out. So he'll be on the podcast in 2 weeks' time. And he went, I think he was 3 months sober and then went on a stag do because he had to do it because the guy that was getting married was his best mate. And it was like, I need to go on this stag do. And we were all like, do you know what I mean? It was like Thursday we were at the meeting, and then it was like, George, just if you need us, call us, blah, blah, blah. And then we saw him Monday and we were like, how did it go? And he was like, yeah, it's good. Didn't drink, didn't take anything. It was like, good on you, man. Good
So
on you.
it just angers me that, not just me, we were all sold alcohol. We were all sold this myth that, we needed it when we didn't. But people aren't ready for that. And I get that. But there was a few comments what were sort of like, oh, it hasn't done any harm with me. I'm still all right. But I was saying, but there's a lot of people who it's not all right with, who do get addicted to.
Yeah.
Who can't.
I mean, I think the figures, I don't have the figures here exactly, but I'll put it in the show notes. It's like the amount of alcohol related deaths in the UK after like 2020, 2021, 2022, when we were still having that COVID period, because of the people that were home, furloughed, not working, lockdown, not where what was it, an hour of exercise and all of that. So people were just turning to booze, and it was like it was a beautiful summer. So it was like a bit of a party atmosphere. And people were just drinking. So the amount of fallout from that is still being felt today. So people that say, "Oh, it hasn't affected me," it's like, well, yeah, maybe you're the lucky one, or maybe you're turning a blind eye to what actually is going on. It's what I say. If people are like trying to do dry January and it's an issue, it's hard for them. Then they need to have a look at their drinking behaviors, because it shouldn't be difficult to give something up, like something that you're not addicted to give up for a month shouldn't be hard. And if it is, then I think that says it all, doesn't it? So if you were to go back to, 14-year-old Chris, and you had two paths to take, whether you'd go the non-drinking, sober, path, where you could, as you say, you didn't need it to be that person that still went out clubbing, or the way you did go, but now in your sober path, which path do you reckon you'd take, given that time machine?
I mean, I'd like to say I'd choose the sober one, but you didn't know, did you? Then you didn't know there was another life. You didn't know you could do all that because there was nothing out there. There was no one around me who was sober at all.
Yeah,
there wasn't one person
that
was now.
The only people we
if I was
knew.
14 now,
Yeah, go on.
then maybe if I was 14 now and some of my friends didn't drink, and I'd see them still having a good time, and not, you'd have the choice to go with them and do that, and then you probably wouldn't end up where I did. But I'm just angry that it's as you can see with my diaries, that I like writing and I like journaling, and then drink took over, drugs, and then it all sort of stopped, and then for years and years you're just plodding along in this state of just wanting the next drink, the next high, the next hangover cure. And now, how much I've achieved in 2.5 years, and you probably feel yourself how much you've achieved in, what are you, 4 years or 3 years sober?
4.5 today.
Yeah.
It's
like a waste. All them years I've wasted. That's when I got annoyed with alcohol, because I think, what could I have achieved in the last 20 years? But
I've always said I wouldn't go back and change because of the life experience that I have, and it's made me who I am now. And I've got a really good life now. I'm getting married this year. I've met this amazing woman. She's got 3 lovely kids, and I'm living on the island where my folks live, and my brother and his partner, my niece and nephew. So I've got all this around me. So I've never said that I'd go and take the other path, because I'm happy where I am. But what you said there, it's interesting, because I lost my license when I was 22, lost my driver's license. So the job that I was doing at the time, I couldn't do because I needed my license. So I decided to go to college and do photography. And I'd always had a bit of a kind of, a love of photography. So I went there, and it was just a 2-year HND course. And I did really well, came out like, I think it was student of the year, triple distinction, all of this, and I was doing really well. And my drinking, I'd still be drinking, but I wasn't going out at the weekends and getting completely smashed and all that. I was kind of on a different, I was really, really focused on this course. And then when I finished that, and then I got a job working um as a photographer, it was only like, still, it was like products photography stuff I was doing. So it wasn't like fashion world and all that. But in my head, I got a place in Cambridge. I had this great job, access to my studio, great little company that I was working for. We had beers in the fridge, and I just took my foot off the pedal. I thought, I've made it, and that was it. And my creativity just stopped, because then the drink really ramped up, and the drug taking started again, and it was
that's
just
what
like, and it stifled everything on me, and that was it for.
Nothing inspires you, really, if you're drinking to the level where we were, or if that's your only thing. Nothing inspires you. The only thing that inspires you is the next drink. And
I wasn't like, I didn't have any inspiration, and I didn't have any kind of ambition at that point. I was just like, do you know what? My life's really good. I've got money coming in, I've got a roof over my head, I've got some really good mates, but I should have been out, trying to progress my photography career and do what art stuff I wanted to do. And it took me from, what would that have been, 24 until I was 40 to really start doing my photography again. And it's mental.
Well, we're probably exactly the same, with the ages. So your whole of your 30s, really, there was no ambition.
No ambition.
You thought there was, but there wasn't really, because it was just being.
It was just all about getting that next drink, and then fine. And I did a lot of geographicals, excuse me, which is a term we use in the fellowship and AA and NA and all that. It's like, I'm sure you work it out. It's like moving from place to place. And I did so many of them. I think from 24, that was Cambridge. Then I went to Isle of Man. Then I was in London. Then I was in York. Then I was in Leeds. Then I went to Hull. And then I'm now back in Isle of Man. And it was like, every time I would move somewhere and I'd think, it's going to be different. Start again, new start and all that, new people. That was still there. That me was still here. Do you know what I mean? The problem was still there. And it wasn't until I got here that then things started kind of changing for me. And it's, do you know what I mean? That, like,
And then you're going to get married, for God's sake.
Yeah. I've never been married. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
me.
It's just never been thought of at certain points. Do you know what I mean? It was just really, this is it. And I've been in relationships, and yeah, you know, I've had some good times and all that, but yeah, it's just nothing compares to this. So
No.
um would you say you regret getting sober, Chris?
No, I don't regret getting sober at all. It's the best thing I've ever done. Um,
Yeah. Sorry, I phrased that in a kind of tricky way, didn't I? Like, yeah, yeah.
yeah, no, it's by far it's the most proudest thing I've ever done. You know, and you're proud. You're proud at every milestone, aren't you?
Yeah.
To yourself, and then you get a little, you know, you get some love back from Instagram, and you're just proud. And you don't get any praise for drinking all the time, do you? You don't get any praise like that. And I know it's not all about the praise, but it does make you feel good.
Oh, it does.
When
Yeah, I mean, my birthday's in February, so I always had, especially living up in Scotland, it was always snowing or wet or rainy or whatever on my birthday. So my and I didn't plan this, but my sober birthday's August the 19th of August. So I just have a barbecue every year on that,
yeah,
and it's great. I
yeah,
mean, like obviously started off just a few friends, family. I think there was about I think there was about 40 people at my barbecue this last year. So
yeah. I
yeah.
prefer my sober date to the actual birthday.
Yeah, 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 absolutely.
Because it's something,
It feels more kind of inspiring, I think, because I'm just like, you know, this summer I'll be celebrating 5 years, and that's an amazing milestone. I couldn't get past a week or two. You know, I think the
no.
longest I did back when it was really bad, I did 28 days in a rehab facility, and then I did some extra days because I came out of rehab, made my way across the country because everything was in lockdown at this point. So I had to get from Blackpool
Mhm.
to Hull to pick up my car, and then I had to drive down to Northampton to where my friend was gonna put me up. And I was sober. I was like, nah, this is it. Not drinking again. So I stayed at hers for 50. In total, it was 55 days, and then my new flat was ready. So I drove up to my new flat, had a fallout with my ex, and I went straight on the booze that night. So the first night in my new flat, and it was 55 days, and then that whole summer was just relapse, relapse, relapse. Yeah, it was just
And
yeah.
then it quit. And I mean, I know I did then 2 weeks, and then that was it. I just stopped. But I like it when you see someone who's really trying, and then they get a few days, and then they try again, and then but then it just clicks,
Yeah.
and then oh, like with Kate, she like get it like 50 days, 60 days, something like that, and
Yeah.
then she said to me last year, she said, right, what shall I do to, you know, because I'd said follow this person on Instagram, follow that person, but there wasn't something that was clicking because
Yeah.
she'd always go, you know. But then I said, well, what about a podcast? Listen to podcasts. And that was the thing that she needed, because since she started listening to podcasts, that's it.
This is it.
A mindset changed, and it's just,
See, for
they're a
some
valuable tool, podcasts are.
they really are, because for some people it's the meetings, and for me it was definitely the meetings. And I don't think, sorry, this is just this little cat's just attacking me. It wasn't the meetings did it for me, but I don't know if I don't think I was listening to sober podcasts at that point. But then when I found them, I was like, wow, these are such a good tool, because me being a gardener, I can just put them on at work and just listen
Yeah,
to them. And it's like, you know, you don't have to sit in front of a screen to watch. So you just put them on and get on with your housework, or you know, doing whatever, sit in the bath and listen away. They're a
yeah.
great tool. Because I don't think of them as taking up time, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like I say, and when you see someone who's been trying to give up for that long give up, you take so much joy in seeing them thrive as well, and that's
Well, was it not with you? Was it not that day that you were going out hiking in the Peak District and there was cows and she doesn't like cows, so
yeah.
you went and had a pub lunch, and she was drinking a pint, and then she was just like, "Nah, I'm not doing this
That
anymore."
was the last drink she had. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
half a pint, and then so it was her birthday the day after. So she actually gave up on her birthday, like didn't have a drink, and then and I'm just so proud of her for doing that. And and I know from the way she talks now and the way she is and the way her mindset is that she won't have a drink again. I know that, and
You can
you just
always
know with
tell.
some.
You can always tell when it has clicked with people, and I've seen people come into the meetings and we're just like, yeah, they're not committed to this, and that's a shame
No,
because they've just not got to that point yet. But they will. Well, hopefully they will. But it's just
yeah,
kind of it's when the time's right for them, and for a long time it wasn't right for me because I still in the back of my mind I was like, yeah, I'm going to get sober, and I'm going to prove to people that I can do this. But in the back of my mind I was like, I'm going to have a drink again. I have
mm,
literally no interest in booze or having a drink. In fact, I actually I hate it. I hate the stuff.
yeah,
But
yeah.
that's just me. So, Chris, what would you on a kind of final note? What would you like want to say to people that were maybe just on their first kind of um, days, weeks, or people that were sober curious, or someone that was wanting to get sober but not really sure how to get there? What kind of advice would you give them?
Well, I'd say, obviously Instagram is just the best place. I
Yeah.
haven't found anywhere better where you can just sort of sit there, follow a hashtag, just follow sober, look at other people. One of the things I did, I followed a guy who was like 3 weeks in front of me. So
Hmm.
he'd be hitting these milestones, and I'd think to myself, oh, in 3 weeks, I'll be 50 days sober in 100 days. And
It's a
just
nice
things
little
like that.
benchmark. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And I think the algorithms of Instagram sort of pair you with or suggest people of a similar, date, because I always see new people coming onto Instagram who are sober and they don't particularly follow me, but they've got a lot of followers of the same.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they don't um, talk to me as much as they do other people who are the same as them. And I've got friends who I've been with from the start, like the other Kate. She's around about the same time, and you're all sort of, and with you as well. I
Yeah,
know it's a year, but feel similar stuff, And if you're just starting
absolutely.
up,
And it's weird because I was saying to someone the other day, like I'm only just tapping the surface, skimming the surface of the sober community on there because I keep finding people like Kate, like yourself, and I'm like, and then it'll say, "Do you know this person?" I'm like, "Oh yeah," and I'll just follow them. Do you know what I mean? And see if they follow back because
yeah,
it's like, there's so many other people, and as you say, it's all different levels because I sometimes worry that my page isn't as relevant to new starters because I'm posting about like 4.5 years and this, that, and the other. Whereas right back at the start, it was like I posted every day from the beginning, up until like
yeah,
500
yeah, you
days.
did.
So it was like every single day
And
I was posting, and it was great because
also, if you're starting out, just follow someone similar to you, and then
yeah,
you might strike up a friendship, and then the friendships are the things that keep you accountable and keep you going and that. And but I'd just say, just go for it, and then just keep going out if you can. Don't lock yourself away too much because that can work, against you. I think
yeah.
sometimes. I know it works for a lot of people, but then you have got to go out and face the real world where
Oh, yeah.
where
And I think
because of
sometimes.
Instagram you can think everyone's sober, but you go out and go, actually, they're not.
Yeah. And again, you've got to do that thing where you do have to go to the supermarket where there's the booze aisle and it's all in your face. So you can't just completely shut yourself off from it. It's
Yeah,
drugs are easier obviously because they're not in your face and they're not just, advertised on billboards and telly all the time, but alcohol is. So you've got to live in the real world. So I know what you're saying. You've still got to get out and face reality. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, definitely. I mean, there was I couldn't even do a normal task without drinking before. I couldn't go to the shop. I'd think, oh, I'll just have a can and go to the shop.
Yeah.
Um, just because the thought of just going in there, I suppose it's a bit of anxiety, but I don't know why. Because I've always spoke to people, but it's just
But it's a
I
habit as
need,
well.
yeah,
I mean, for me, it was like if I moved into a new place and I did that quite a lot, and it was like, right, and it was like moving in day, and it was like unpacking boxes, putting a bit of IKEA furniture together. always had to have a beer, and then, oh, well, I'll have a beer, and then, oh, well, let's open a bottle of wine. We'll have that as well. It was always just that there was always a reason for it. There was never a reason, but in my head, there was always a reason to have a beer on the go or whatever. Doing housework with a beer, like, I don't know, made it more fun.
And I'd say just be honest with your friends as well. Be honest with your friends about what you're doing. Don't try, don't be ashamed if, some of your friends will take it badly. Let's be honest, mine did, but some didn't. Some were really supportive, and then some of the friends have even gone sober as well. So, you shine your light, and then the other friends who were supportive will come round.
Yeah. So. And I think if some people, and I've had a few that weren't really supportive, wasn't that they weren't supportive, but they just kind of dropped off the radar. And it's like, do you know what? Yeah. That's fine. That's fine. I'm old enough and thick-skinned enough to not take that as a reflection on me, because I'm happy with who I am. So I was like, you know what? See you later. It's not my problem. But yeah. No, brilliant, Chris. Really appreciate you coming on. Say again.
I was going to say another thing. I'd say listen to podcasts, because you're educating yourself, aren't you?
Yeah.
And when you're not drinking, you're open to more things all the time. So you can take in what people are.
Yeah, we become sponges, don't we? So we constantly want to find out new things and aspects. And I'm fascinated by all the science behind alcohol and the dangers as well. I had no idea the dangers, and I'm finding out so much from listening to podcasts. There's the Sober Rebel, the Sober Effect. Obviously, the legend that is Sober Dave, one for the road.
Yeah.
And then this little one, what is it? After Hours with Jimmy Thistle? I don't know. We'll see where that one goes. We'll see where that one goes. But yeah. Is there anything else you want to end on, Chris?
No. Well, I was just going to say about yesterday. I went to my dad's funeral yesterday.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
I'm so glad that I got through not just the funeral, but the lead up, the wait, everything sober, because I have thought what old me would have done in that situation and how I would have coped and what I've done. And it would have all been a blur. This whole last month would have just been a blur.
Yeah.
I'd have probably drank when I went to see him in hospital. I'd have drank after. I'd have been drinking on the way to see me mum. I'd have drank definitely yesterday. I'd have drank in the morning.
Yeah.
I'd have been drunk in the service, and I'd have been drinking till this morning from the wake. So to experience all that sober and all the emotions and all the at one point yesterday, I was struggling to breathe because I was upset, but I enjoyed feeling that, because I know that was like a proper feeling, whereas
before it was just a fake feeling, wasn't it? So yeah, and it's tough having the emotions back, but as you say, once you sit with them, you can kind of enjoy them, even if they are the kind of darker emotions.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm so obviously I'm so gutted for you to have lost your father, but I'm so glad that you made it through that and come out the other side.
People have asked me today what it was like yesterday, and the first word I said was it was beautiful, and I'll remember every single bit of it, every feeling,
And as you say, you will remember that, and that's a good way, in a way, to put closure, to send your father off, rather than getting completely blitzed and then not remembering it at all.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what then. I'll end with what I said. So I didn't know whether I was going to speak at the funeral, but I did. And I just read something I'd written in one of my diaries a few years ago. 30 years ago. And it was just that if I could be a tenth of what my father is when I'm older, then I've done a good job. And I think by being sober, I can be that tenth if I was drinking, that'd be nowhere near what I'd want to be, or the kind of man I'd want to be. But now I can be because I don't drink. And
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, no, Chris, that's touched me, man. Thank you. That's a beautiful sentiment to kind of end on it, man. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah. Yeah. Chris, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, mate. I'm so glad, we got around to getting you on the podcast. So I'll put all your details in the show notes, your Instagram account and all that if you want. And yeah, hopefully we'll get a few people listening to it. I know people are they're gonna take a lot from this. They will resonate with it. This is the whole point in getting people like you, people like Kate, just everyone that I've got on, because we're just normal people living our everyday life that's ended up having, addiction or alcohol use disorder or drug dependency, whatever you want to call it. But it doesn't discriminate. That's the thing. It's like we didn't wake up when we were 14 and writing our diaries, right, I plan on becoming an addict of sorts. That's not what we planned on doing with our lives. So I'm just glad that we've all come out the other end of it and there's hope. And that's what I kind of hope that people take from this. So yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate
cheers.
it. Yeah. All right, Chris. Speak to you soon, buddy. And have a good rest of your week. Hope it's all right.
Cheers, Jimmy.
Cheers, man. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
So yeah, that was Chris. Amazing story, amazing hope at the end, and the fact that Chris still goes out clubbing because he loves his music. So he's not had to sacrifice anything by giving up booze. So I'm sure we can all take lessons from Chris with that. I don't go out as much. Well, I don't really go clubbing anymore. I put that down to my age, but maybe if the situation arises, then maybe I should go out to a techno night or something like that in the not too distant future. But we'll see. I do still go out from time to time, so I've not shut myself off completely. But yeah, well done, Chris, for doing that. And so tragic to lose his dad recently, and just really, he must be so proud of himself for not picking up and for being able to do a reading, and such a lovely reading at the funeral. So yeah, massive kudos to him for that. Chris is the admin or the chair at the Sober Midland Society. I'll put the link to that in the show notes. And he's Soberbo on Instagram as well. So I'll put both those links in there. And I hope people have taken a bit from that as well, or taken loads from it. So yeah, as I keep hammering home, it's all about listening to the similarities and not the differences. So yeah, have a great week, guys, and see you next week. Cheers. Bye-bye.